Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Stripology podcast. Today, I'm going to talk about etiquette. So this is an episode that is more suited to new dancers, people that are considering getting into the industry, and even dancers that like to travel as well. So around Australia, which is where I'm experienced, and around the world, there are different setups with different clubs regarding payment. Because we're a symbiotic relationship with the club, we're not wholly employed by them. We are a sole trader, so we have our own business and we work under an establishment. So they give us the place to work and we in return work there, and they make money from our services in different ways. So some clubs, they take a house fee, so we actually pay to work there. And some clubs take a percentage of our earnings. So for every dance that we sell, they will have a house fee, a percentage that they take, which is usually between 20, 30 and 40%, depending on which club you're at. So when you do approach a club to work there, that is one of the questions that you might want to ask, to just find out, how do they take payment? Is it a house fee? If so, how much? Usually weeknights are a different amount to weekends because the earnings are greater on the weekends and the club is open for longer. So they have their staff and everything that they need to pay for to keep the club open. So that really differs city to city, state to state. But most states have a certain percentage that they'll take. Like I know Queensland is usually around 40%, Perth is around 30%. In Melbourne, a lot of the time there's house fees, and Adelaide, it's been a while since I worked there, I can't quite remember. I think that's a percentage as well. So yeah, that's something that you will want to work out. That's sort of an etiquette with the club, an arrangement with your relationship there. So in America, there's another sort of system that's in place, and that's tip outs. We don't do that so much in Australia, and that's where you are sort of expected to, or I hear sometimes pressured into, but it's more of an expectation that you're going to pay a tip out to the DJ, to the managers and things like that. So that can happen occasionally in Australia. I find it creates a bit of a different sort of dynamic in the club. I have paid managers before, very occasionally, if they have really clearly helped me to make money that night, directed me to a certain customer, and I've had a fantastic night, and I wouldn't have met that customer if they didn't direct me there. So on that occasion, I'll, offer them a tip, but I don't do it in a way that it's expected from me, because I'm really confident in making my own money. And I feel like it can become a bit of a shakedown situation in clubs where that sort of, greasing of palms is happening. It can sort of start escalating. I've seen that in clubs where, say some dancers are paying the managers regularly, and then in turn the managers are going out of their way to help certain dancers. But it can kind of start creating a bit of a divide in the, the dancer experience in clubs where that's happening. So I like to really view it as an anomaly, and just something that's not expected. That's something that is like a genuine thank you. I do recognize what happened here, but I'm not going to have this as an expectation from me. So that's something to be aware of as well, in certain clubs, and just understanding the culture of the club that you're in. So stage is also held differently in different clubs. There's usually a roster where when you're going to be on stage. There are certain ways around that as well, where if you're booked for a certain length of time, or if you're booked in VIP, then you're not expected to do your stage, and the management will be aware of that, and they will make arrangements for you. But again, that's different in different clubs. So again, that's something to be aware of. Also, the level of nudity is different in different clubs. So some clubs, you're paid to go on stage, just a small amount, like $20, and you're expected to be nude by the end of your stage set. Stage sets usually differ from around 15 to 25 minutes in different clubs. Some clubs you get to choose your music. Other clubs, they have a set playlist and you don't have the option to choose your music. Again, it just depends on the clubs. Some clubs, you only take articles of your clothing off if you're tipped, and others have sort of a set routine, like the last 2 songs, you must be topless or you must be nude regardless, things like that. That's just set in place because stage is actually there for the patrons' entertainment. So for anyone that's listening to this, if you're not in our industry and you might wonder, you know, how stages work, we really work from tips there. So it's really encouraged that you tip if you appreciate someone's performance, or if you want to encourage certain dancers. It's a great way to just, you know, share the generosity and have the money circulating in the club. And the majority of our money is made from private dancers. So stages, you know, more or less a duty that we have to uphold. For some people, they really love performing and it's their time to shine. It's their time to really showcase their talent and, you know, really enjoy themselves, because that's something that really lights them on fire. And so, yeah, stage can be different for different people, but that's the way it's run. There's a roster and we generally have to adhere to it unless we're booked in VIP or a long booking. So for myself, I like to not do stages. I prefer to do the private dances because that's where I'm being paid. And so I really make sure to be booked around the time that I have stage coming up. I find that's a good little loophole to do what I love. But again, everybody's different. And so with traveling dancers, these are all questions that you might want to ask the club, how it's run. It's really important when you're traveling and dancing to choose a club that suits you, because clubs are different in different ways. Some clubs might have a real party vibe and a real fast pace, and that might not suit you. Whereas some clubs might have a more, you know, slow getting to know the customers, building lots of rapport, and then building those longer, more intimate dances that might suit you. Something that I'm really passionate about is versatility. And I find that despite the club that you go to, there might be a general vibe of the club that's undeniable, but you can also still work in your own way. So say you go to a club that has a more slow hustle, but you prefer the more fast, you know, quick hustle. There's no reason that you can't bring that to the club. The customers just might not be as sort of used to that. So just keeping that in mind, you always want to keep rapport with your customers. So, you know, just keeping that in mind, but there's no reason to stop your style, but also in knowing that versatility is always key. So if you are really confident in one way, like I really like the slow hustle, I really like to, you know, get to know my customers before I sell a dance, then I would really recommend bringing some versatility into your hustle so that you can suit a wider range of clubs and you can suit a wider range of customers. That's always the key, because versatility equals consistency. The more versatile we are, the more consistently we can make money, because we are, more suited to a wider range of people and situations. So just looking at that, if you choose to travel and dance, what type of club you're stepping into and whether their structure suits you, and then knowing that you can always be really versatile no matter where you end up as well. So here's some tips now around more being on the floor and more hustling etiquettes. And I've learned a lot of these the difficult way. And so that's why I'm sharing this today, because it's best to, you know, learn from others' experience rather than, well, I mean, it's always great. Experience is the best teacher, but if you can avoid a difficult situation, then that's always, you know, key. So one thing that I do want to mention around stage is there are tipping seats around the stage. So these seats are generally reserved for customers that are really engaged with the stage performances, and they are tipping seats for a reason, because the customers are in a close proximity to the stage and they're engaging with the dancers on the stage, and they are sort of, I guess, reserved for tipping customers. So it's against good etiquette if you're on the floor, if you're not on stage, to approach customers in the tipping seats and hustle them for a private dance, because you're essentially taking a customer away from the stage and away from the dancer that's on the stage. And I learned that the hard way in one of the first few shifts that I worked in Brisbane. I didn't know this, and I went and hustled someone at the stage. I took the customer, and a dancer was really pissed off with me, and she basically confronted me and said, don't you ever fucking do that again. And that's how I learned, okay, the tipping seats are reserved for the stage dancers. They're kind of in a relationship there. Like there's a dynamic going, and so we want to keep that for them. We always want to be considerate. That's what club etiquette is all about, being considerate to our fellow dancers, because we're all in the same boat, and we don't want to do things to other people that we wouldn't want done to ourselves. And so that is one thing, just remembering that, yeah, the stage tippers are there for the stage dancers. And there might be a tiny window between, you know, someone getting off stage and someone getting on, but obviously that moment is reserved for the dancer getting off the stage. But if she, say, for example, goes with another customer, you can briefly go up and just check in on the customers to see how they're going, to see if they're ready for a private dance. That might work, that might not, but when the next performer's up and performing, you need to step away and, you know, give the customers the chance to really engage with who's on stage and tip them. So another thing that's really important is proximity. So basically, the way that it works is when we're literally standing with a customer and talking to a customer, it is bad etiquette to approach a customer who is chatting with a dancer. It doesn't matter if you've met them 50 times before. It doesn't matter if they've booked you for 50 dances before. They are not free reign. They are talking to a dancer, and you simply can't approach them. If they're in a group, so if there's a group dynamic, this is another thing that is different from club to club. Some clubs, it is okay to approach a group if there's already dancers talking to, say there's a group of 5 people, there's a dancer on the side talking to one of the people in the group. It's okay to approach someone else that's in the group, one of the other customers. However, it's good etiquette to check in with the dancer that's already talking to that group and just signal with them on the sideline, is it okay if I approach? And they might nod or they might ignore you. And if you get ignored or they turn from you, it's a good idea then to just take caution, because they might be arranging something with the customer that you're not aware of. They might be arranging an entire group dance where they entertain the entire group. They might be about to take the entire group to VIP. There's different situations. And if one dancer books 4 customers or 5 customers in a normal dance, then they're actually paid 5 times. So we don't want to go in there and cut their grass, because we're going to be simply dividing the group and taking one of the customers that this dancer is arranging, you know, a group dance with. Some scenarios, it's really helpful if someone comes to join the group, because, like, statistically, it's very difficult to hustle an entire group. It's much easier to, you know, arrange a dance with 1 or 2 customers, and there might be 3 or 4 still standing there that aren't involved in the arrangement. And sometimes it's easier with a couple of dancers to arrange a big group booking where there's, say, you know, 5 customers and 4 dancers, and you all go to VIP together. Then sometimes it's really good to get that reinforcement and, you know, seek dancers that are close proximity to you and grab them and say, hey, are you free? Would you like to come and join us? We're thinking about going to VIP. And that way you just have more of a better dynamic and a bit more, you know, suggestibility going on with the group, that it's a great idea to go and do this, you know, group dance. There's sort of, yeah, a little bit more sway in the suggestion there. So that is good etiquette when we're talking about groups and proximity, just to make sure that you're not stepping in and you're not stepping on someone else's toes, that you're being really respectful, checking in if it's okay if you join, and see whether or not you're welcomed in, or whether or not, you know, they've got their own thing going on. So yeah, always check in with your club if you're traveling dancing or starting out, what their etiquette is around groups, because some clubs simply will not, it is considered bad etiquette in some clubs to approach someone in a group, even if there's only 1 dancer, even if the group has 20 people in it, it's still considered bad etiquette. And some clubs that just does not exist, and it's completely okay, provided that the dance is okay with it. So definitely check in there. And it just takes a little signal and just reading the moment. So another situation that can happen on the floor is when, like I was just sort of talking, alluding to, when, say, for example, there's two customers, you're talking to one, you're getting on really well with them, and, you know, they want to party together, and basically it's a really good idea to get another dancer for the other customer, and you take care of the one that you're talking to. So in that moment, you might grab a dancer and, like I said before, hey, are you free to join into our dance? We're thinking of doing blah, blah, blah. And that's usually a really good position to be in, because you haven't had to do any of the floor work. You're literally just sort of poached and in a good place at a good time. And so there's an etiquette there where, of course, it's really fantastic to thank the dancer that has gotten you a dance, because, like I said, they've done the legwork. You haven't done the legwork. You've just been in the right time, in the right place at the right time. And so, yeah, of course, good etiquette is to thank them. You might also want to return the favor. This, again, isn't an expectation. It's not to say that because someone got you a dance, now you owe them and you have to run around and try and get them a dance. No, but it's just something to be mindful about into the future, where you can, you know, if you're in that situation yourself and you need another dancer and they're close by, but say there's 5 or 6 dancers close by, you might want to grab the dancer that's helped you out in the past, just to return the favor. But again, it's not to be an expectation, and there's definitely no way that it's good etiquette to get another person to dance and expect that they now owe you a dance. It's just luck of the draw. Sometimes you help people, sometimes you get helped, and that's what it comes down to. And just being really grateful for the situations that work out for you is more than enough, just to acknowledge that in that moment or at the end of the dance. So yeah, just being mindful that, you know, it can be viewed that people owe you, but people don't owe you and you don't owe other people. It's just the way that the club environment works. Another thing that's really important, not only for etiquette, but also for safety, is never, ever giving out personal details about any other dancer. It doesn't matter if the customer says that they know them really well, or they know them outside of the club, or they grew up with them, or, you know, if you've grown up with them and you know them really well and you feel like they wouldn't mind if you just said something about them, it's never okay to share personal details with the customer about another dancer. And it's actually really good to advise in this point that it's also a really good practice to never share personal details about yourself with any customers, no matter how safe you feel. We just never know, and it is a really, really important safety aspect to keep that in mind and make sure you practice that. I've had situations in my dancing career where people have shared that I'm married, where people have shared different kinds of information about me, and it just changes the dynamic between me and certain customers, where I may have shared other details, as in that, you know, not other details, but, you know, another version of my life. And I simply don't want them knowing personal details, and it's happened before and it has affected my rapport with certain customers. So it's never okay. And if you find people are doing that, it's really important to probably let a manager know or let them know personally that it's not okay. Because it's really, you know, putting yourself at risk, and it's whatever their motivation for doing that, it's not an excuse. It's not okay. So that's a really, really important one that I really want to stress. And I know that a lot of dancers out there who have been at the receiving end of that find it really upsetting. And it's, yeah, it's just something that is very bad etiquette in the strip club. So, and in fact, in just all areas of life. Another thing to be really aware of is to not get caught up in grudge holding or allowing others' grudges to impact on you. So again, you know, this is something that can be related to any walk of life. You can look at it like in the schoolyard, you know, there's a lot at stake and there's a lot of different scenarios that can happen. And sometimes there can be miscommunications or different situations, but it is really in your own best interest for your own mental health to really just recognize things for what they are, focus on what you're in control of, and do your best to not get caught up in any situations that are, a bit petty or hearsay or, all of those grounds. Just staying in your own lane, really focusing what you're in control of and not getting caught up in any grudges that might have resulted from a miscommunication. It's in everybody's best interest, and it really helps from night to night because we all need to work together. And when we're all working in close proximity, night to night, it can be uncomfortable if there's, cliques happening and things like that. It's not a schoolyard, it is a workplace. So we really need to be aware to not get caught up in any of that and just try and iron over any situations that happen as they come up, because things do happen. It's a fast-paced environment. We're working with a lot of different people. We're working around alcohol, and there can be situations that can get out of hand. So just knowing that, it's best to not get caught up in those. General consideration, obviously, like I have mentioned a few times in this episode, is so important because we're all in the same boat together, and just understanding that we're all doing our best and understanding that nobody's perfect, and understanding just all of the situations that we need to go through. That general consideration and etiquette is a must, and it's so important for everybody's experience at the club, not only us and our colleagues, but also the customers as well. Energy is felt in the strip club. It's very easily picked up on. It's very easily picked up on if there is, any sort of bad energy going on around. The customers can feel that. They're not going to want to be in a work environment, in a place where they're wanting to be entertained in our work environment, where there's people disrespecting each other or people, pushing other people's boundaries. And we can only lead by example. And when we want our customers to, hold our boundaries, it's really important that we really, show that from our own example and show that we like to work with etiquette and with consideration for others. And that is our best opportunity to bring that out of our customers as well, so they can see it's a really positive workplace, that we all really enjoy each other's company, that, we're not working against each other, we're working with each other. And it can just set a really beautiful tone in the strip club. And I find majority of the time this is the case. And it's really nice to uphold that. And it always starts with us. And I'm just very passionate about that because we're all in the same boat together. So just like when we are on an aeroplane and they give the speech at the start, if the oxygen mask drop down, we need to place ours on ourselves first before we help others. And yes, in just saying that, we need to be considerate for others, we also need to be considerate for ourselves and respect our own time and respect, the fact that we're there to work, we're there doing our best. And so we do really need to put ourselves first when it comes to different situations. So it's working together, but it's putting ourselves first. So we're not sort of putting ourselves in the situation to our own detriment. And I've learned this the hard way as well, where a couple of many different situations where I've shot myself in the foot by accident, but this is just learning by experience. So, for example, I've had a situation that comes to mind where I had a customer, really good rapport, they were booking, they're extending. I had a stage coming up and I asked another dancer because I knew that he was, having a really good time. And I thought, can you just entertain him until I get back? I have a stage. I did that. I got back and now they had a really good rapport. And I basically lost my customer because, I came back over, but they both, were involved in their own dance, and I realized, okay, that was probably a bad move on my part. I probably should have, invited the customer to come and watch me on stage. So that was a really interesting lesson that happened, where I thought that I was just helping two people, him to just keep enjoying his experience, and the other dancer to quickly get paid and hold down the fort until I got back. So there's a little example of just, being considerate, but to my own detriment. And it can, definitely happen a lot in the strip club. Another thing to be aware of is regulars. So this is another thing that comes up quite often. This is where it can get a little more intense, because usually there's more money at stake and there's been a lot more groundwork with regulars. But the fact is that all of our patrons are there on their own accord, and we don't own anybody. It doesn't matter if, like I said before, if we've been booked 50 times with them, if they've come in every single Saturday and every single Sunday and every single Monday to see us, and then we come in and they're speaking with someone else. That is nobody's fault. That is nothing to get upset about, because a true regular will potentially be waiting for you. And if not, if they do want something a little different that night, then that's their choice. We have no claim over any customers. And I've seen a lot of times dancers getting really territorial with customers and getting really pissed off with other dancers for having a dance with their customer. But it's just the way that the cookie crumbles. Sometimes like really good regulars, they might want to have a quick dance with someone if you're busy or if you haven't started yet or whatever. Or if they're just wanting something new, they might dance with you then later for the rest of the night or whatever they choose to do. But at the end of the day, it is their choice, and we don't have the right to claim customers, because it can get really awkward, really tricky, and it's just not the vibe that we want to bring to the workplace, to our own mental environment, feeling that we can be territorial around other people. And this comes up a lot. I've seen and heard examples where a customer might book someone a lot. They feel that that's their regular now, and they've got their contact details, and say this customer is now in a VIP with someone else. I've heard of situations where dancers actually text customers that are with another dancer saying, "How dare you?" or "I'm available now, come and find me." And it's basically cutting into another dancer's money and cutting into another dancer's opportunity. And so, again, we don't know when we are in the situation of being the other dancer. We might, but we might not know. We don't know the extent of everyone's relationship with customers. And so we might also be on the end where we feel our regular customers are getting a dance with someone else. Either way, that's just how it is. So, I really want to put out there that there is no sort of right to claim customers. It just ends in heartache and it ends in awkward situations. There are other customers out there, and in fact, when it comes to regulars, if they are doing what they want to do, sometimes regulars push our boundaries, and in fact, that is a whole other topic on its own. But it's just important not to buy into any games that can get played. It's more important, like I said, to put on your own oxygen mask, to look after yourself, and just go and focus on what you're in control of, and go and do your best, and go and entertain someone else if that's what needs to happen. Because regulars might be testing the waters to see how reliant you are on them, how much control. There is a lot of power dynamic that can come into play when we're talking about regular customers. So best advice there is to not buy into it, not get offended, not get territorial, and just keep doing your thing and make that money knowing that it's there and trusting that that customer is going to come back to you if that's what's going to happen. And so, yes, that's a very important one to put out there, because in my coaching, I get asked a lot about that, how to navigate that, sticky situations that come up there. And again, everyone is free reign, basically, unless we're in a conversation or a dance with them. And we can just go on doing our thing, as can every other dancer, as can all of the customers as well. So I hope that was helpful. I would love to hear any questions. If you have any, reach out via DM.